Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan. I'm a miniature painting artist and this channel is mostly about painting miniatures, all kind of arts which has to do with it, with miniature painting and tabletop games. And this video is all about Star Wars Shatterpoint terrain painting. Just check it out, enjoy, follow my channel if you like it and press the like button. Thanks a lot. Enjoy, have fun. I'm priming the buildings with the airbrush because I mainly work with the airbrush. I'm using black primer from Vallejo. With a spray can it would be much faster, of course, but here I want to tell you some advantages with the airbrush in this case. You have a straight spray pattern and don't lose that much color like with a spray can. Another positive aspect is that you easily get into edges and places that are very hidden. And yeah, of course you have better control with the airbrush as with a spray can. I really try to work exactly here because it's very annoying if some gray plastic shines out afterwards, especially in the shadows. Then it's better if you have the parts black there instead of the plastic. The first color I use is blue-gray model color from Vallejo. I thin it down with some thinner from Vallejo and spray especially on all parts I want to be in gray in the end. The gray has a slight blue tinge. It's therefore the perfect color, I guess, as I will paint the walls with a warmer tone later. I prefer to spray in several thin layers than once and then too much color. I also spray primarily from the outside edges and from top to bottom, which means I try to get the color stronger on the edges and on the top parts of the pillars and beams. I want these parts to be quite bright because I will put some edge highlights on these parts afterwards. You can see that I already achieve nice transitions only spraying the gray with a thin coat onto the black primer color. You see also that I spray the walls to have light and dark backgrounds here as well, but here I leave more dark parts of the primer, especially in the lower areas, and I will put another color afterwards onto the walls. You can see here that I have used some tape for the first building I have painted, especially if you are not that practiced with the airbrush. This step makes sense, but it needs some extra time and you can skip it if you are familiar with using the airbrush. I used the tape for the first building and moved on without it for the other buildings to save some time, and it worked quite well, and it's not too bad to get a bit of the other color onto the gray parts because I wanted to achieve a little bit of a weathered and not too clean look anyway, so that wasn't a problem at all. Also, the tape can tear off some of your color if you remove it. Make sure to don't leave it too long on the building parts. You can also put some ceiling varnish onto the first gray layer before putting the tape on to avoid this, but this also needs some extra time, of course. For the walls I use brown leather from scale 75 as a base coat. I try to spray on all parts where I have some black left and spray selectively on each of the walls on different parts. You can see now on this building, it also works quite good to hit the right spots without the tape. So yeah, as I said, it's not an issue to paint it without the tape if you have some experience with the airbrush already. You can see here now how the building looks like with this first brown coat. I move on with some Iraqi sand from Vallejo and I spray over the whole wall surfaces and especially the lighter parts where I have left some gray color. Also, I spray more layers, especially on the edges and parts which are facing the light, as I have done it with the gray before, on the pillars and so on. And yeah, as before, I pick some spots and leave some brown beneath this next coat, so that the brown shines a little bit through the Iraqi sand. For the next step, I'm using a Beastie Brown air color from Vallejo. Therefore, I don't need to thin this color for using it with the airbrush. So that's quite easy to handle. This color has the purpose to give the whole building a more realistic and nicer look. Of course, you can skip this step, but in my opinion, the walls looking quite flat only with the Iraqi sand. So I'm spraying again, especially in the shadows and the midtones, and pick some individual spots like under the wires, windows, and so on. You can spray as much color and parts as you like with this color until you are happy. For me, it looks the best to do only hint. You can spray as much color and parts as you like with this color until you are happy. For me, it looks the best to do only a hint, to not exaggerate it. Following, I use some blue from Vallejo Air Color. I thin this color a little bit with some water because I want to use it like glaze and in a very thin coat. I spray now onto the gray parts of the building and especially in the midtones to achieve a nice look and to give it even more grading to the warm brown walls. For now I'm done with the airbrush and I move on at the painting desk with some brushwork for the edge highlights. I'm starting with all the gray parts and I'm using blue, gray and ivory from Vallejo. The mixture contains more ivory and it's a mix about 80 to 20. My color on the palette is thicker than usual to really get strong lines onto the edges. You can see I am going over all edges from the pillars and so on. It is a bit of extra work, but in my opinion it's really worth it. I'm also highlighting the small cracks on the walls and pillars with this mixture. In the next step, I'm using some pure black for all wires and switches and other things I would like to have in the end silver. The black color is the best basement to paint some metallic colors on the part then. I'm moving on with all edge highlights on the walls. I'm using a mix of Iraqi sand and ivory, same composition like with the gray and the ivory. I'm also highlighting all edges and parts which are hidden by the light. Also, I'm highlighting the cracks in the walls again. I'm using some lead badger from Citadel for all the parts I want to have silver, like the satellite dish and all the wires and control boxes. I don't want to have a too shiny look, therefore I'm just brushing quite rough over the surface from the satellite dish. Sometimes I need to put on 2 layers because the metallic color doesn't cover that good every time. If some parts have deep indentations, I just leave the indentations black and get a nice contrast that way. Now I'm moving on to the last parts almost. A lot of the buildings have some lamps on the edges from the walls, and I already have pre-painted the frames of the lamps silver. To get a nice shiny and bright look, I'm spraying with some pure white over the whole lamps. It's not a problem if you spray a bit on the sides from the lamp. After this, I'm using clear orange from Vallejo. This color is very bright and appears like a light and warm yellow onto the white surface. I spray this color onto the lamp and a little bit around them to get a simple OSL effect. And then the lights are also done. Very simple and effective. Of course, you can give them some more attention so that they look even better with putting some white again into the inner parts of the lamp and glazing with some yellow again. But in my opinion, for terrain buildings, this result is quite perfect. For the final steps, I'm going over all silver painted areas with some black contrast from Citadel. You can also use any kind of shade here to give them more depth. The last steps are the details, which means painting all switches, small lights and the screens which are not done yet on the buildings. On the doors, for example. I'm using some pure white first and going over all those parts I want to have in a bright shining color. For the levers and handles I'm using some black. Now you can see how I paint all those small parts with some color. In this case, for example, a screen which I paint with some blue air from Vallejo, used as a kind of glaze and paint a few layers on it. For the switches and small lights I did the same, just using different. For all other parts which are black now, I'm highlighting those in the end with some cold gray from Vallejo. Now the buildings are almost ready for the gaming table. I just seal them with some art coat from Citadel with the airbrush to make sure that the color doesn't come off. Here you can see now one finished building in a 360-degree view. I'm quite happy with the result. I hope you like it as well, and I hope you have enjoyed the tutorial. I think the color scheme is very great, and the cold gray and the warm sand tones look very well together on the table. So enjoy painting and have fun with the buildings.